Today's guest is Ryan Moeller, a global CFO and strategic finance leader with more than 20 years of experience helping ambitious companies scale. Ryan has worked with $100 million plus organizations, combining financial strategy, operational discipline, risk management to support transformational growth. In this conversation, we'll explore what sustainable growth actually requires, how leaders make better decisions under pressure, and how finance can become a growth engine rather than simply a control function. Ryan, welcome to Trust to Traction. I'm happy to have you here.
Oh, hey, Stefan, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's always kind of fun to meet people and talk a little bit more about my background, how I can help people, and how I can be relevant to others. So, kind of like you said, I've been in traditional finance for maybe 25 years, working for Fortune 500 companies, 100 million plus in revenue, Flex, Teleflex, in the CFO controller capacity, doing a lot of financials, Sarbanes-Oxley. And to cut to the chase, I came to the conclusion that I believe we learn through opposites, right? So now that we're experiencing this new AI infrastructure, I believe some of these legacy systems that I've been working on for decades now are not going to be really compatible with AI infrastructure, because the systems are the systems, right? So I
It's the
believe we
old
need to look.
rails, yes.
Yeah. I believe, like just like anything, a broken system can't fix itself from inside itself. So I believe we need to kind of look outside the system and build new ways of new system, new architecture, new ways of looking at things. And that's why I think Web3 is important. It already has the rails. We just need the adoption to get people outside of these kind of fear-based systems that I believe have served its purpose, right? They've been around for 80 or 90 years. Now I'm just asking people to kind of look outside of the system. It's done its job, but they still are centralized, and we need to look at decentralized systems that are autonomous, that kind of work more with nature and have less bottlenecks. And I think the risk to reward, I think the opportunity in this new environment and this new wave will be worth people's time.
Absolutely. It's pretty much a transition over a change, in my opinion, because the old rails definitely are not as suitable as for today's economy. One of the things that stands out in finance, though, is like finance leaders are often seen as guardians of the numbers. To start with this narrative, when did you realize the CFO could actively shape growth in general, and of course towards Web3 changes as well?
Yeah, early I was involved with some pricing decisions, and I just figured out earlier when I can meet with pricing and get investments in the right direction. It's a lot easier than kind of in hindsight, where we look at the numbers or lagging indicators. So specifically kind of how the adoption works, right? In they go no 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 no, right, to the new technology, and then they adopt the technology, and then they start it in a closed system, a closed network, right? And then we know that an open network is far superior than a closed network, right? So I think that four step, no no no, they adopt the new technology first, like the financial will put it in the closed
Yeah.
blockchain, and then ultimately they'll realize that an open network will be far superior. And that is a big opportunity. If we look at, I wrote a few articles about the DTCC. I mean, trillions of dollars are being sent all over the world, right? So,
That's
blockchain
right.
has instant settlement, and you can just see
Oh,
instant settlement, no chargebacks. You can see the potential. It's pretty obvious. It's just going through the stages of kind of like I talked about. No,
right.
I would
Because
reference Mark
yeah,
Moss. Mark Moss. I would
my
reference
boss as
Mark
well. Yeah.
Moss's work on that as well. So.
Well, overall, what changed the way you're thinking? Because you're saying that before was the more centralized aspect of things, and more open. So when you start embracing the more open, did anything specific started changing in the way you're taking decisions or the way you're approaching leadership in general?
Fortune 500 companies that are publicly traded. It was fine for 30 years when things were pretty stable. But when
Yes.
you work for these companies, you're always comparing numbers, right? So you're comparing actuals versus budget, actuals versus AOP, quarter over quarter, year over year. So you're constantly comparing something, right? And then if you
Mhm.
have one-offs, then you have to normalize and explain the one-off. So in an environment in technology that is, hasn't happened before, what does that look like? Billable hours is going to change. Units of measure are going to change. Everything's going to need to be reset and changed. So are we going to make all those changes inside of a closed
Yeah.
system that works how it works? Or would you want to have something new and different that can maybe tie back to the old system? So I just
And
think in this
yeah.
exponential age, this digital infrastructure, a reset of sorts is going to happen, and that kind of came with the once AI agents really started working or potentially start working autonomously. I
Yeah.
mean, in an age where we're going to have invisible transactions and we don't know as they talk to each other, retrain each other in recursive code, like it's going to be totally different.
Often I like this approach because often in the Web3 communities, I see some negativity around AI, not because of the value that AI provides, but mostly because there is this thinking that AI startups and businesses are draining money away from Web3 and blockchain startups. But in the end, that AI will also be pretty much everywhere from what we see different projects that they have machine to machine transaction, and it's already a look into the near future in my opinion, and that is the two sectors being tightly connected. The amazing things having a guest like you in this show, because obviously 20 years of leadership creates lessons that no textbook can provide. Which experience most changed the way you make decisions overall in the past 20 years?
Yeah, so basically, the decisions I've made is I kind of tie in more people. I try to see, I try to ask myself, what is the data not telling me, and then kind of what am I missing? So having people that are you surround yourself that you trust, that you can rely on their perspective, is very helpful. So I kind of look, what are the numbers not really telling you? So for example, from Web 2 to Web 3, or from traditional to new infrastructure, I believe it's just we're not going to need it until we do. Meaning we don't understand with centralized systems like a Christmas bulb light.
Yes.
When one light goes out, the whole light goes out, right? So
Yeah,
I believe
that's
they can.
connected in a series.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe they can coexist, but just like quantum, right? People are going to want to dip their toes into decentralization and understanding, just like nature, like a lot of
Yeah.
these data centers. Like we need to align more with nature. Nature doesn't have one centralized figure, right? Nature doesn't care how big, how productive you are. It takes care of it takes care of each other, and it just all works organically.
So, well, a CFO sees decisions from a different vantage point than most departments. Um, what does the CFO notice that the rest of the company often misses, and that's something you can also apply in a Web3?
Yeah, it's just the difference between being busy doing things and creating real value. And that's where I see the big difference between now and Web 3. Like, what do you own? Like, as we are talking before this, what do you really own in Web 2? Do you own your website? I have a free and clear house. Do I own that? Not if I don't pay my property taxes. So that's why I think
So,
Web 3, the value creation, the store creation, the creator economy is something people really need to embrace. And just like, Bitcoin is, I refer to it as Bitcoin is the boycott token. Get outside of the system. This is the time to be peer to peer, eliminate the third party, eliminate the middleman, Stefan's the host, right? He's the creator. I'm the consumer. We can all benefit in that same ecosystem, right? So I
Yes.
say get rid of the third party, start looking at creating value for yourself and others, and that's how it's stored.
For example, if we think of wallet, centralized and in between, for example, like neobanks, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
where would you stand in that aspect? Would you go 100% decentralized or in somewhere in between?
Yeah, I think in between right now until that adoption really happens. It's nice to have that central. It's easier, right? You're still centralized, but have the benefit of being decentralized. So, I've had a lot of bad experiences with smart wallets or smart contracts. They're not that
Yeah.
smart. So I had some. It's probably on me. It's probably my fault because But yeah, I believe they're both right. We have centralized because you need law enforcement, right? It can't be
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Wild West.
it's
Wild
always
Wild West
part
is
of
no
the
good.
equation. Yeah. DAOs, we're looking at DAOs more as a self-governing or governed by the community in a way. So when we're thinking of that, there's different types of DAOs, right? So there's some where governance is more transparent, others is a little bit less. So I even to that, probably there's still need for certain rules.
The initial question is, so I advocate for
Yes.
people to dip their toes in, be cautious, but look outside of the system.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
web
I mean,
three.
the signals are there, right? Like BlackRock, when they
Yeah,
talk about tokenization, RWAs, and they're already tokenizing the Nasdaq.
absolutely.
I mean, it's as simple as I'm an accountant, right? If we have inventory and if it's not on your books, do you really have it? So it's basically just taking real world assets and putting them in a system like an accounting ledger, right? So that's why
That's right.
that's where we have them in nature, right? So it just makes sense if we do it for companies. Why don't we do it for cities, countries, and nations? How many? What are our global resources, right? What does that look like?
Absolutely. They're definitely breaking some cross-border barriers at this point with the Web3 technology. To circling back to more on the growth aspect of things, that's what's happening behind the scenes. Activity can make a company look healthier than it really is at times. Especially in Web3, we see sometimes a lot of activity, everything looks good, but we don't really know behind the scenes. How do you distinguish real growth from temporary momentum?
Yeah, I
What,
just
what,
ask myself. Yeah, I ask myself if we remove the discounts, if you remove the promotions, if you remove all the
yeah,
incentives, what do we really have? Get to the core of it.
what is it? Not every dollar of revenue strengthens the company equally. Not every endorsement or like it actually communicates growth. So, what makes revenue high quality in your opinion
Um,
in a Web3
yeah,
environment?
if it repeats, if it's priced fairly, and the customers keep paying without pressure, right? Like just getting
Yeah,
feedback from customers. The feedback loop is huge, right? So
a little bit of research and R&D and transparency coming straight from the customer, if I understand well.
yeah, just having that feedback. If you can cut the feedback loop to shorter and constantly be evolving, constantly being open, just kind of shutting your mouth and just listening to your customer. And then I
What?
would say another thing is a lot of people have competition, right? They stay away from their competition. Well, you should do the opposite. You should be your competition's best customer, because if you find out what they're doing and what they're not doing well, you can implement that in your own business and be successful. So embrace competition.
What makes revenue dangerous? What type of revenue
So revenue that is,
in a marketing context? Like,
yeah, like
yeah,
it's if it's so your margins are negative, right? Your top line revenue is growing, but you're not making any money.
yeah.
That's a red flag, right? Will this sell more? And if you're not profitable, like solving that problem by volume is kind of a joke. But yeah, just
It
yeah.
would be an
We'll make it
obvious.
up by volume, or we have negative margins, but we'll make it up by volume. No. So
Yeah.
just understanding your core business, understanding your core business and eliminating any promos, incentives, just straight value add to the customer, and this
It'll not
keeping
instead of
your
going on the negative. Yeah.
yeah, and listening to the feet on the ground. If it costs more to get and keep customers than the customer's worth, the business doesn't work, right?
Okay. So
So
that's talking about growth and Web3 in general. Rapid growth places pressure on every part of a company. When a company begins scaling quickly, what usually breaks first in?
basic visibility in the financials, knowing what's really happening inside the business in real time is the biggest thing. So especially for startups, the startup doubles. They have no infrastructure in place. It's time to slow down and just get visibility into the business so you can make informed decisions.
All right. So many companies build financial discipline only after problems appear. So this is still part of growth here. What must be built before rapid growth begins in your experience?
Yeah, just simple systems to track cash, cost, and performance before they happen.
So
SOPs.
this would be a start, but what would you say if you don't add it right away, you cannot add it later, or it would be something harder to add later? Would you?
Yeah, just like you build a house, right? If you build a house on a bad foundation, you might have to start over, right? There's nothing if you don't have a strong foundation, there's nothing you can do to make it cute, or you got to have a strong foundation. So
That
that's why,
okay.
looking at, as we go, you're going to look at some of these new systems. You don't want it grounded in a real foundation first.
On also on growth, tenfold growth sounds exciting overall, right? For most companies, uh, in startups alike, but speed alone does not make it sustainable in my experience. So, what separates sustainable 10x growth from reckless expansion, in your opinion? What is a obvious
Yeah, it's
thing?
just as simple as things get more efficient, or are they getting more efficient or more fragile as you grow? It's kind of like a fire, right? If a fire blows, right, how sustainable is that fire? So that's why, like the Fed, right? We have a Fed to slow down or speed up as it continues to grow. So you should have levers and tools to speed up or slow down. So as it grow, I mean, just pump the brakes, right? Just pause, and you'll just listen to your intuition, right? Just listen to your higher self. Just listen to your gut, right? And then keep building that infrastructure, have visibility, and make sure you're scaling the right way. Because if you're not scaling the right way, um, it could all come down pretty quick.
It could have an emergency brake at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that's very interesting. And you mentioned in a previous conversation that you're always working with numbers and with numbers in general. So leadership teams usually track many numbers. And which important metric is most often ignored, in your opinion?
It's just simple whether old customers are sticking around and still paying, and not just adding new customers, right? So you got to service your old recurring customers and not just kind of flip or just keep bringing on new customers. So just take care of your old customers, word of mouth, and your business will be fine. I just ask yourself to just question and find your joy, right? If you don't enjoy what you're doing, um, AI is going to be able to do it, right? It's just a matter of time.
And
So
and
find
and
what you
maybe
really
even
like.
better, especially if you
Yeah,
don't enjoy it,
exactly.
it might
Yeah, I
be
mean,
better
I
than
don't want to in accounting, right? There's inputs and outputs.
yeah.
I will go down. It's like the railroad, right? And Henry, they're gonna beat us at everything. So find human
Absolutely.
centered.
Yeah. I've seen that in the medical field. What it could do is already something impressive from precision to decision making in many. But I still think that there will always be the need for the human touch, especially in certain fields, right? I mean, that can nobody can take away. So even AI, I don't think that eventually will be able to replace having an actual empathetic human beside you during whatever you're trying to achieve, or where would you stand with that? That's I mean,
I
we do
disagree. I
think it
disagree.
will,
I
yeah.
mean, as these, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert, but I believe how these models are kind of put together, right? They take $1 trillion a parameter, and they're looking to recursively scale the AIs. So they could, what can't they do, right? They're gonna autonomously like create the whole kind of process, right? So I believe unless like government or politics get involved and say, "Hey, AI," and hopefully they listen, because I don't know if they're a new species, they might not listen to us, right? But that's why we need to kind of get involved now, and before this stuff becomes recursively developing, where they're just a new
Yeah.
species, right? And what
Yeah,
can't they do?
I
So
guess
unless
we could see it that way, but then again, because it's the human behavior that we is something we cannot necessarily change, but we can diminish maybe or amplify it. But there is this need of belonging, right? So we've always seen that through history. Everybody's kind of trying to belong to a group or another, and I find that maybe AI cannot provide that for him, because as a human, can you actually belong to AI, and can you find a belonging sense of belonging with a language model? I understand advanced language model, that's maybe a different story, but what we have today, it's a bit of unthinkable. But in the long run, you might be you might be on
Well, that's
to
what
something
I mean,
there.
kind of, I go to the back, right? I reverse engineer it. So what does it look like in the end? I think abundance, and there's possible scenarios, right? But how they don't take over everything, if they get into government, and if we still have this race for, AGI, super intelligence, we just need to pump the
Mm,
brakes and make sure that that we're still around. I mean, but at the same time, I believe like only if politics say, hey, AI can't do this, then but there are certain things that AI can't do, like feel, like you said, empathy, the connection. And I think AI is just a mirror for us to discover who we really are. I think an AI is
yeah,
a mirror to unleash some of the dormant, the just to really wake us up to who we really are, and remember that we are eternal beings, right? Having a human
absolutely,
experience. We're more than we think we are. If your thoughts can make you sick, your thoughts can make you heal, right? I believe we're far
exactly,
more powerful than we really realize or think. So I think AI will wake
exactly.
us up to our real remembering of who we are and our true power, and it'll be something that we can't even conceive of what we're going to be doing. But
Well,
I think
it's a very positive view compared to how we view the AI in popular culture, right? In what we've seen in movies in the past, and right, that's a completely different view. But I think in the past it's mostly popular culture, particularly, it's because we kind of fear that something that we don't understand at that point. Now we understand it. So,
do we
well,
do
at
we
least partly we yeah, yeah. Well,
we don't
a
and
lot more
we
than
don't really understand. I mean,
yeah,
I've been researching it, and I don't think we really understand why they do what they do. Right? They lie. I'm not. And ultimately, I
exactly.
think we're going to be okay, but I don't
I've
think we
seen
really
some
understand how they work. They lie. They blackmail,
self
which
self
humans do, right?
yeah, what I've seen, combine that with Web3, and with fintech in general. Yeah, the possibilities are many compared to the traditional system, and particularly machine to machine transaction. How do you think that would change the banking system and the finance sector overall, having AI, blockchain combined?
It's going to be invisible. Like once the AIs talk to AIs, which they're already doing, they're just going to be invisible transactions, and that's the point where we don't know what's going on because AIs are transacting to AIs, and we're kind of like, I believe money, just like I kind of compare it to food, right? Where people were had food scarcity of food, and they eat when they could. Like money is not going to be a thing. Like it'll be GPU and will be more important than money. I think money will be
So you think
they'll
that
figure
that would eliminate the impulsive buying and all the, well, in Web3 we had that quite often where there were cases of FOMO, right? And people kind of pushing that at one point in not in the now environment, but there was something very present at the beginning of crypto and Web3 in general, where there was this fear of missing out, right? Like the FOMO.
Mhm.
Thinking of this machine to machine transaction.
How we look at it and how we value money now is going to totally change. I believe we'll be less focused on that than more focused on, how can Stefan be a better version of himself. I believe we'll be going inward, and just like if you talk to like some of the wealthiest people, they give away their money, right? It's a pain to own all this stuff. Oh, 10 cars, yachts, boats. It detracts. It hinders. It detracts from what you really love to do. Stefan, I love these conversations. I love talking to people. Like if you start
Exactly.
owning assets and owning all this stuff, you gotta maintain it. You gotta surface it. It's just a big distraction. So I think people are going to be going more inward and focused on what makes me feel good. Why do I why what makes you get up in the morning, right? Focus on their joy and what they really want to accomplish in this lifetime, and that's just money's just a byproduct of providing value and doing something really well. So just like hey, let's have all this abundant food. Like I don't want that much money. Like money is a target. Money creates some problems, right? I want to have enough to survive, but
Absolutely.
more than that, like I'd give it away. Like people are like, who cares, right? I want to live in a nice ecosystem. It just doesn't have its appeal
Well,
anymore.
that depends on the person, right? Like I guess some people have different needs and wants in the end, but yeah, no. Overall, I think there would be in a behavioral aspect of things that many things would change at the human level. And I've seen a lot of talk also around UBI or something like that, that eventually another breakthrough in technology would surface because the needs would completely change for everybody. So that eventually will change everything also in a marketing aspect. One thing that I doubt would change very much in marketing is that what we're doing now is we're investing in something, taking care of it, and maintaining whatever asset we invested in. But I find that many companies nowadays it's one of their purpose, especially from a marketing point of view. You do want to keep the user engaged and people happy in a way. Like we've seen that with TikTok emerging not long ago. It's kind of pushing this this marketing style. Yeah. Overall, do you think this would disappear eventually with all the major changes that companies would also shift interest, that they will be more having the well-being of the user over users engagement and attention?
I have a different, like, I'm very macro, I'm very strategic. So I believe we replace business with human. So I believe some of these traditional systems will slowly decay and it'll be more human centered. So I believe part of that process, I work with a company, the AI lab, where they like, is this content human or is this content AI generated? Right? So I believe there'll be more value in creating, real human centered marketing. And in that, I believe like our wounds, our flaws, will be the greatest assets. Just like if you have like a couple million coins, printed, it's the flaws that are most valuable, right? It's not the perfection, right? So I believe the uniqueness of the
Mm.
humans, the humans that are kind of outside of our traditional systems that think differently will be the most
Yeah.
unique and the most desirable kind of assets or marketing that I think they'll go to more empathy and things that are not perfect.
Now is the time to make a mentality switch and start thinking of how to adopt to the upcoming changes, or do you still think it's maybe too early for people to think of that too much?
Never, never. So I go, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You know, change is going to happen. Like, is it going to be a super cycle? Is it going to be up and to the right? Or is it going to be some event that triggers us to reinvent ourselves? So I believe in going inward, being still, knowing thyself, because I believe our internal world, our external world is just a mirror of our internal world. So if you remain coherent, positive, it's just your external world is just a delay to your internal world. And in that, I believe in kind of getting outside of the system, creating something that you really love and enjoy. And money is just a byproduct of doing what you love and providing value to others. So yeah, but it's just to that point of awakening to the point that realizing like you sit in front of anything you do in front of a computer can be replaced. Like it's not that
Yeah.
hard to put your head around that, right? So what are we going to do, right? And that I believe it's going to be good in the end, but you got to survive that transition of getting there. So and to do that, I believe staying calm, staying internally coherent is how to survive until we get to that place of abundance where we all figure this
That's
out.
yeah. Circling back to kind of executive decisions, like rarely arrive with perfect information, right? So since we mentioned data and judgment overall, when does leadership judgment need to overrule the data? Like when do you think that the judgment is more important than what the data shows?
Yeah, sometimes the data can be skewed or misled, right? So it's having conversations with people on the ground. It's having conversations that the source of truth that are working with the data, because especially now you don't know what you can trust, right? So it's trusting yourself. It's if you've been in the business for, if you have experience, you've been in the business for many years or decades, it's
Yeah.
trusting your gut and keeping yourself accountable and keeping good people around you that you can ask questions of what am I missing, right? So the data can be skewed, the data can't be right, but if you understand the underlying core of what's going on and you have visibility to uh, the metrics and
Yeah.
the customer feedback loop, you should
Yes.
have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Still in between Web3 and AI, what out of curiosity, what tools are you using mostly in Web3, and what about in AI tools that you find most useful so far
Yeah,
in your
Anthropic,
work?
Anthropic Claude. I use Claude Code Desktop. I haven't got too deep in it. I try to keep smart people around me because
Mm.
I couldn't. I wanted to create my thing, and that's why I created a community. Because if you have a community,
Yeah.
and I like to bring people together. I like to solve problems.
Very good. Are you planning to create a product, or how would you use it more? What would be the use of
I
it?
want to create a whole.
It's,
I want to create a whole world, a whole empire. So whatever, I believe there'll be new asset classes, right? So you're a
yeah.
podcast host. We have doctors, lawyers, accountants. I mean, that's not that many. I believe there'll be whole new asset classes, right? If you really, if I truly believe, like whatever we think is jobs and repeatable is going to be replaced. So what that looks like going forward, I have no idea. But what can humans do that AI can't do? And that's look inside, go inside. And I don't know if you know anything about quantum, but quantum
Yeah.
computers literally prove that multi universes, different dimensions exist, because that's how they're not binary, one or a zero. They're one and or zero or both with superposition. So that fundamentally proves that there's different dimensions. Like there's different worlds going on at the same time, and that's how they can solve these problems, because they're literally going in different dimensions and doing these problems, and it's
Different
collapsing
possibilities.
into yeah, it's
Yeah.
collapsing into one. So it's a whole new. And what I worry about people in
Yeah.
institutions, large companies, is just their thought process, right? Because their thought, they're just habits, right? So I really want people to start thinking differently, forming different habits, getting their brain and their brain to work differently. Because I really believe we need to really start asking questions, you know, thinking differently. And I don't have all the answers, but that's what I've been doing personally, like myself, is like questioning a lot of different things, going inside, being coherent, working on non-judgment, not having triggers. So just working on myself.
Uh, there are several types of leaders in this field. Some that embrace the unknown and they might take a risk or two, or expose themselves to certain risk. And I was thinking in this aspect of risk management that is sometimes treated as a defensive function over everything. How can good risk management create growth? And in the context of AI and Web3 and quantum computing, whatever the future will bring, what do you think that would bring growth? What mentality per se?
Yeah, risk management's huge, and that's a great question. That's what I want people to really lean into. Just limiting your downside, and you think of asymmetrical risk reward, right? So if you could take say you could take 10 bets, right? Because you only have limited capital. But if you could take
Yeah,
asymmetrical bets, where, and I think now, if one possible scenario is, if like Amazon, some of these companies, for every dollar in revenue, they're investing 3 or 5 in capex, right? So what traditional um, logic will say is we're in a boom or bust, right? So these AI models are not like SaaS models, right? Like a SaaS model is you build the thing just like Excel. One more user of Excel, there's no more labor, or there's no more cost to
yeah,
it. That's not how these LLMs work, right? As they have new users, there's new costs with that users, right? So that's why these companies don't talk about what their margins are, what are they really, their profits. So
yeah,
if you think of the boomer bust, right? So we go through a bust. You can, if you have real risk management, and you have discipline in your risk management, you can take some of these asymmetrical bets, saying, "Hey, if I bet $1, I'm betting my profile. I'll have 5 to 10 risk to reward." Right, so you can take a lot of these asymmetrical bets if you have a real model that has your risk versus reward, and you're very
yeah.
disciplined. That so.
Yeah, so it's because well, there's obviously a lot of factors to there. Like you said, you're thinking more on the macro level of things. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors as well, like more like confidence from employees, customers, lenders, and investors. Like all have to be taken into account. In your opinion, what would make a Web3 company financially trustworthy? And because we've seen many projects emerging from a Web3 perspective, but yeah, overall, what makes a company, emerging company, financially trustworthy? Like a startup
Yeah, just
in this.
real users that are paying real money, right? And you don't have promotions, you don't have incentives, you're solving a real problem. And Web3 is perfect because it's just like gaming, right? If you think about
Yeah.
the efficiencies, I don't know if you've heard of flash loans, but just look up flash loans. I mean, there's stuff that you can do
Yeah.
with efficiencies that you
Mhm.
can't do in real world uh, legacy systems, right? So it's just building that thing. It's maybe having some of these big brands build a thing that is so cool that that's why we need to go to blockchain and Web3 because they have the coolest, the best things like off the grid. I think gaming and then and earning, right? So you can
Mhm.
create incentives with gaming where you can play to
Yeah.
earn. There's apps that
Absolutely.
will pay you to be fit. There's apps that will pay you to take care of yourself. I mean, there's so much potential. It's just again the adoption, which is identity and paychecks. Your identity, all you know is what you know in traditional systems. That's what pays you. So why should I learn more? And there's risks, right? I mean, because there's big risks. Bad actors. It's not 100% secure.
For
So there's
for the moment at least, yes.
yeah for the moment until I think it's coming though. I think it's coming.
I also, but from what I've seen so far, well, at least in the US, I see it's heading the right direction. I'm not sure if other countries will follow.
I mean, if you look at smart cities, they're going to a controlled structure, right? And I believe there'll be like some COVID type of event that will nudge us in that direction, right? Will nudge us into like a controlled structure, which
There's always chances for that, but yeah, in overall, even in stable coins, a few years back, we wouldn't even imagine stablecoins to be as mainstream as today. And in a way, it's happy to see this change. Like,
right? I
oh
mean,
yeah,
Stefan, let me ask you, like even 5 years ago, if you knew
mhm.
everything you knew now, like we had Trump, we had the gene, all this adoption at the government, you would have thought Bitcoin would have been you would have been crazy, right? You would have
I,
been off the, you'd been so excited. You would,
we knew the moment might come someday, but he's always felt so far away, right? It's felt
Mhm.
far away. So
we have the institutional adoption, we have the use cases, but yet it's still kind of like stuck. We're going through
exactly, which is well, we'll see from here on. It's already huge development compared to where the way you think. Actually, many I would say many years, but quite a few years ago, stable coins were seen even as a kind of black sheep of the cryptocurrency market because oh, why do you need a stable coin? You wanted to have a coin that is highly volatile so that you can play and earn or there were many ways to approach this, but not many people I have seen had insight to see that well stable coins are actually one of the pillar that that would actually start
yeah. I mean, it's kind
mainstream
of hard to run a
movement. Yeah,
business
yeah.
if your delta of your coin is like you don't know what's going on.
Not everybody is getting that coin to keep it and hopefully see the number change so or see the same value because right like with the meme coins some people do find it very valuable because of whatever it represents. Other people
Mhm.
might find yeah, so there was always this discrepancy in between users which yeah, I think stablecoins pretty much solve that problem, and it's a good thing to see where things are going, and more things are coming, in my opinion, as well.
Mhm.
So, well, I just want to go back to leadership, and this is a question I've been meaning to ask you. Um, is leadership credibility is tested most when the numbers disappoint, right? So especially as we just mentioned numbers, how should leaders communicate financial problems in your opinion? Well, communicate with the investors and stakeholders.
Yeah, as early, as clear, and as transparent as often. So the earlier you can catch it, just like anything else, then you can kind of help solve for the gap. So as long as you're clear, you're consistent, and you're early, then hopefully you could solve that discrepancy in that gap. So
What do you think they should never hide, though? Something that should never be kept on the side from investors.
well, any deceit, lying, just like yeah, anything that would jeopardize your business in the future that you know about. But a lot of it, our incentives aren't tied that way, right? So a contract. So say we know we're losing this, really significant contract, and the board doesn't know about it, right? So that's a moral compass. That's a good human moral thing that you're
Yeah.
obligated to do as a leader, and a good person is to
Be
be visible.
the transparent. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for this insight, and I was be going forward to the technology and discussing a bit more on the technology side of things as well. Because in Web3 and AI, the story often develops before the economics are proven. What evidence makes a CFO believe an emerging technology is becoming a real business?
I mean, it's narrative driven, right? That's kind of the problem with
Mm,
Web3. It's all narrative driven. RWAs, gaming. You don't have to do the thing. You just have to create the narrative and get the community, get the distribution, essentially the
enough
community,
involvement,
and
yeah.
you don't need to execute, right? Execution is, I mean, I mean, execution is not easy. To execute on a strategy, a new technology is not easy. So again, just comes back to, do you have real customers? Do they really pay? Are you solving a real problem? And then ultimately, are you tying it back to something physically in the world, right? Or is it just you have to tie it back to something physical?
So yeah, so my question for you was when does technical complexity becomes a financial liability?
Yeah, basically when your costs are greater than your new customers, right? So I like to basically work backwards a lot of the time, right? So people, especially now with communities, they have this great thing, right? I have this awesome thing. It's better than anything else. But do they have distribution? Do they have a community? So I've been building communities for people that have the thing that's really, I think, are really good. So just like Elon Musk, how he launched the Cybertruck. So before he
Yes.
did anything, he's like, if I build this crazy thing, is anybody going to buy it? So he did a simple landing page. If I do this, how much would you do as a deposit? Got the list, got people's money, and that's how he secured his financing. So
Yes.
just test your ideas before you go and build the thing.
Well, that's a pretty interesting perspective, and I think it's something that many Web3 marketers and startup founders and everybody in that's watching this and is thinking about building something, that it's a very beautiful way of approaching and starting with reverse engineering the whole thing and starting directly from the possible target buyer or whoever is interested to obviously determine several factors, including price and positioning. I would say in a moment of radical change, for example, that uh, change in technology can bring. How would people adapt if the change comes too sudden?
So that's what the big change. That's what brings to my point about going within. So what if you're comfortable within, it doesn't matter what happens in your external world, right? It won't trigger you. So if you're comfortable with within and you kind of understand who you are and like really like your eternal beings having a human experience, there's nothing that can hurt your soul, right? There's nothing that can happen in the external world that can sway you. You're gonna get through it, but you need to be coherent, and that's why I launched a community. I have nothing to sell them other than just my values. Here's my articles. Here's what I believe in. So I believe everybody needs a community because I believe you shouldn't do your own. You don't have to do it on your own. You can get help, and problems don't stay. Problems don't come to stay. problems come to pass, right? So get outside of yourself. If you detach from yourself and understand that problems don't come to stay, problems come to pass, these changes are an opportunity. You just have to zoom out, gain a perspective, and that's what communities help you do. And that's exactly why I formed communities, Stefan, is because I think a big change is going to happen. I think there's going to be some crazy changes. People aren't going to know what to do. They might freak out, and then you just got to zoom out, go within, and know that this is happening for a reason. The universe happens for your greater good, and you get through it, and I'll just understand and believe inside yourself that ultimately the goal is abundance, and ultimately it's happening for the right reasons, and life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you and through you.
How do you think this upcoming changes will impact uh, the society in general? Do you think impact will be anything similar to what we've actually seen in the past? Let's say like Black Friday or like Industrial Revolution. Do you think it's just a matter of history repeating itself, or it will be a completely different context that we've
Yeah, there's
never seen
different
before?
scenarios, right? There's probabilities, right? There's three outcomes. Either it's really good, stays the same, or it's really bad. So let's do the really bad. Let's just do the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is like a black swan. Something really bad happens. It freaks everybody out, like a COVID event, right? So how do you
Okay.
get
Oh,
through that? What do
I'm
you
more
need?
scared. You might say like a Terminator event, but that's
Yeah,
from
yeah,
a
that, I
popular
mean,
culture.
yeah.
It's more,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's just
But
even a Terminator type event, right? But we know is if it happens quick, hopefully the recovery is quick. So just like if an altcoin drops, right, it has a 30% dip. It will correct a very high probability right away. So it's like a band-aid. So if we do need to reset, just gain perspective, hold cash, hold some silver, and just again know that nothing in the world will can affect your soul, right? And know that it happens for a reason, know that
no,
it's happening for your greater good, right? Just like that, the Great Depression, all these bad events. Ultimately, that's when the greatest companies happened, right? Just think in your life, you think, "Oh my God, this is the worst day of my life." Well, the worst things actually turn out a lot of the times are the best things when you add perspective to it. So whatever happens, if it's bad or whatever, it needs to happen. It's supposed to happen. It's happening for your greater good. We got to get through it. You get through it together, and then boom. So I do think that's a higher probability. There'll be some massive event. You're going to need a community. You're going to get through it, and we'll all be
some.
better for it
Well,
in the end.
that's the thing, because some we've seen some, maybe they do get a major correction, but there's many they don't. We've seen especially in the coin context that you mentioned, some they never recover. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, it's that there's that possibility also, because we're kind of seeing the negative possibility of this, but in a different context. So how would you see the best outcome of this change, if it's not history repeating itself? What would be the
The
best
greatest thing
outcome?
is AI is does automate, and it transitions us to work that we really love to do, right? Like we slow down with AI. We transition from stuff that we don't like to do, the 9 to 5, the grind, the human doings, to transitions to AI does the stuff that we don't want to do. We slow down and we transition to work that we really like to do, and our GDP is goes straight up because all the productivity these AI agents can do. There can be billions of them, and with now digital labor is deflationary, right? The marginal cost of the production is zero, so we can have infinite cognitive labor, right? Just think about that. And we can give them wallets, and they can do their own thing, and they're working for humans, and they listen to
Yeah.
us. That I mean, that's abundance. Like money's not a big deal if
That
they
would
can
be
do
absolutely, that would be a definite definitely a very interesting scenario, and very much anticipated by many emerging technology companies. I would
it. Yeah,
say
they
that
actually say
many,
what
every startup would wish for that. Yeah,
yeah, they actually
but
say they actually like Elon, right? Like harnessing the sun, they actually are able to execute what their vision is without any hiccup.
Not everybody's Elon Musk, but I mean, many startups are aspiring to that, and companies can sometimes attract very high expectation before widespread usage even exists.
Yeah, I mean, if we're executing and able to solve real problems in a meaningful way. So I just look at, okay, where's the money going, right? So if we're talking about new technology, what should be created, where's the money going? And then if you go, okay, the budgeted line items are money being spent here, and if you can do it faster, cheaper, better, I mean, they're already spending the money, and then
Yeah.
instead of spending 100 grand, well, I can do it for 50 grand, and I can do it better, faster, and that's why I believe these traditional systems will ultimately go away because it's leveling the playing field. We can already do what everybody else can do, and we can actually do it better, faster, cheaper, um, solo than having a board or having a lot of loops to jump through.
What mistakes do ambitious leaders repeat during periods of growth, in your opinion, and in this Web3 fintech context?
I think they're just on productivity, right? I think they think very linearly, like straight line, and that's not really how reality works, right? Be productive, be linear, put in a bunch of time, and that's not what nature tells us. That's not how the world works, right? It's three steps forward, one step back, three steps forward, two steps back. So I believe in pausing, reflection, and doing it the right way, and kind of like the tortoise and the turtle, right? Slow, steady, consistent. Build that framework, build a community, take care of your customers, do it organically, opposed to like these meme coins pump and dump, right? They do it the right way, solve a real problem, add real value, and get that. It's easy to get that 360 loop sooner. The sooner the better.
Yeah, from what I understand, that you're saying growth is never linear, and that founders shouldn't rely on a certain pattern either. Like it's not growth is not Fibonacci pattern either. So in a way, it's sometimes unpredictable, and there are many things to take into account.
Yeah, and just
The
kind of being
human.
aware, checking your surroundings, being self-aware, make sure you're doing it the right way. Because I believe it's like a fire and a flame. If you're going too fast, you're gonna burn out or miss something, or especially in an A where you can just copy, right? We can just copy this idea. Hey, cloud agent, copy this, make it better. So everything's like a commodity, and not about relationships and doing what's right.
From a Web3 marketing perspective, many marketers there came back to Web2 marketing as well, because the market is more permissive right now compared to a few years ago. You couldn't be too much on YouTube or Google. There's certain words you cannot use, and now the market, since stable coins and many assets are more mainstream, it's more permissive for marketers of what we could do as well. In this context, would you see Web3 marketing becoming a complete shift from the Web2 eventually, and kind of focus Web3 only, or do you think that will always be something in between?
Yeah, I get where you're going, and I think there's a big opportunity. Just like YouTube, like you have a YouTube channel, any of these centralized platforms, banking, they can just turn you off. Oh, Stefan said something bad, right? They can close your account, they can do anything, and that's why like decentralization in Web3, it's decentralized, right? So if you put up a website, they can't take you down because it's decentralized. And I think a lot of these influencers, they have large audiences. Instagram, X, they have large audiences on these centralized platforms that kind of tell you what to do. They can shut your account down. Why not, try to get something going in Web3 where it's decentralized? You can kind of say what you want to say. You still have to have a code of conduct, abide by the rules, but they don't own your data, right? You own your own data. You're sovereign. You can say what you say, and they can't, click a button and terminate your account. So I think that's the future. The future is social web in a Web3 setting. It's decentralized. It can't be controlled. You own your own data potentially. I think that's the way of the future, and I think technology only goes one way.
Mm, Privacy in general. This is another topic that we don't touch base on as much. And overall, where do you think this is heading? Do you think we'll have more of it or eventually less?
Privacy and identity is a big thing. Like when the internet was created in the 90s, I don't remember signing any disclosure or waiver about them keeping all our data, right? Like there was no form or no disclosure, nothing we signed when we opted into the internet. But yeah, privacy is important, especially for these big companies that have a lot to lose. Privacy is huge, and we got to find a way to keep things private.
Yeah.
And at least have the option. I believe in kind of an open source network and a model opposed to a closed network. But yeah, privacy is huge, and I think the best way we can do that is both centralized in Web 2 and then decentralized in Web 3, where we could have many different nodes. So I see Web 3 and decentralization playing a huge role in the future, right? We can have both,
Mhm.
right? We could have a decentralized that
They
roll
can
up.
coexist, yeah.
Yeah, they can coexist.
For someone that is in Web3, a founder, investor, or anyone working in the space, including AI, and if they want to prepare and embrace for the impact of the change that's about to come, what would you say they should start with?
So a Web 3 founder in Web 3, it's already kind of difficult, right? They've had to
Mhm.
survive there, for a while, and they see like a black swan event, right?
Yep.
So zoom out. When in doubt, zoom out. Be prepared and know that problems don't stay. Problems come to pass, right? So zoom out, stay calm, get a community, get people you can rely on. And yeah, just don't freak out. You're gonna survive,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things are meant to happen. Everything is perfect as it is, right? And sometimes the baddest days are actually the best days. So I would just add to grow your network, right? You don't, I mean,
Mhm.
if you think something's going to happen, right? Some event, I mean, you want to build your network before, right? Instead of like, you're going to, going to need resources, you're going to need help. Reach out to be valuable to people before you need them, right? Give before you receive. And that's why if I'm on LinkedIn and that's honestly all I'm doing is I'm just trying to put people in the right places because I do think there'll be some type of event. I don't know when or where. I hope it doesn't happen, but if they have an event, we have people in the right places that can help. Either bring people together. We could trade time for time, try trade your thing for my thing, but we can figure it out together.
Honestly, I do see your activity. You're pretty active. I see you on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if you're also on other social,
Yeah,
but I do see you're very active in doing lives and yeah, I only see you live. So I guess who is welcome at this point in your community, and who would you invite if you have invitation
I
for
leave no
LinkedIn
man
users?
behind. I leave nobody behind. So I have no filter until you come in. Just if you're not about other people and you're kind of about yourself and you're disruptive, like I don't care. You can say what you want it to me, but when you start, doing things to other people, that's disruptive. So I believe in giving first. I invite you to be a co-host to join, talk about your podcast. And I just ask, who you are, what are you about, what can you give to the community, how can the community help? Keep it simple, but I don't care if you're nobody or you're somebody. We have a place for you. So I believe everybody's needed, kind of in this new world.
Absolutely. I do, we're in agreement with that part. I do think that everyone has a part to play in this world. So, thank you so much, Ryan, for
Thank
joining
you.
my podcast, and I really appreciate your time. And I hopefully I'll have you on another episode later on. It would be
Love it.
great.
Yeah.
Thank